Right now, we are at www.disclosetv/news/Amazons underscore Indians underscore Shay underscore Orth underscore has underscore a subterranean world underground. Here we go. At an Amazonian tribe, Mokuzi Indians believe that there is an underworld beneath the earth as recently as 100 years ago. Is this folklore or truth? There could be some truth in it. Perhaps there are even inhabitants beneath the earth. One moment. These inhabitants are descendants of the sun god giants. How did they get there? They went there through a cave, and 13 to 15 days later they reach inner earth. The Mukuzi have another role by protecting the cave entrance and preventing others from entering under earth. The inside of this world is very bright, light, and sunlight. Even in this underworld, there was place to grow fruits, oaks, mangoes, bananas, and other plants. But there are dangerous areas to avoid, like boiling steam and streams. Could this legend be true? The Makuzis have been known as guardians of gold and diamonds. This sounds like the story of the Guardians of the Galaxy. This also sounds like a versions of heaven and earth. Heaven, the brightness, food, sun, and sun qualities, and hell, boiling stone, streams, and dangerous. Most cultures and religions have some heaven and some hell belief. This seems like the Makuzi's belief in the underworld. It is interesting to see how the sun is incorporated in the underworld. What should dark, what should be dark and scary and never ending is bright and full of hope, like other religions which offer hope and future for all. What can comparisons? What can comparisons? What comparisons can be done to other tribes or religions? Do other groups have similar oral stories like these? What traits do the Makuzi Indians use in their everyday life? Do they have the same crops that were in the underworld? Where do the earthly lives intertwine with the spiritual underworld life? How are the Makuzi chosen for the passage to the underworld? Perhaps this is the passage from death to the afterlife. Next article is it's going to be the same thing again. Now, once again, are Native American Indians descendants of a race of subterranean dwellers? We're going to read this. According to creation stories passed down through the generations, several of the Native American Indian tribes believe their ancestors originally emerged from the interior of the earth. The Navajos believe that they emerged at a place known only to them in the Navajo Mountains. The Aztecs feel like they were one of 7 tribes that came out of the caverns of Aztlan. The Zuni believe that in the old days all men lived in caves in the center of the earth. The elders of the Hopi people believe that there is an entrance in the Grand Canyon and exists which leads to the underworld. And there is a tale about a tunnel in the San Carlos Apache Indian Reservation in Arizona which is said to lead inside the earth to a land inhabited by a mysterious tribe. According to the Panwi story of creation, all living things came from the underground. The Chikli, or Chikili, the head chief of the Creek Indians, said, "The earth opened in the west where its mouth is. The earth opened and the creeks came out." Ancient ancestors emerging from subterranean lands seem to have been common themes among the Native American tribes. Did some of these early Americans actually come from under the ground we walk upon? It wasn't just Native Americans who believed they came from the region of the earth. Ancient Egyptians believed that their invisible underworld of the dead, which was ruled over by Osiris. The Greek had a dark underworld of the dead ruled over by Hades. The Norse, Teutons, and Vikings had their underworld, a place called Niflheim, a cheerful place of ice and darkness. That was their land of the dead. The Mayan underworld contained several deadly places such as the House of Gloom, House of Cold, the House of Jaguars, and the House of Fire. According to Inca legends, the first of the Inca race were 4 brothers and 4 sisters who were said to have emerged from a cave close to Cusco in Peru. There is a dwelling which the gods created for the first human beings, a dwelling in which they became great and increased in numbers, and the location of which is described in words exactly corresponding to those Iranian, Indian, Chinese, Ediac, and Aztec literature, namely in the center of the earth. From the book Records of the Past, translation by Sayce. And my very last article I want to read to you, this one right here is a lot more lengthy, so there's going to be certain things that I just skip around, but these links are going to be in the video. And this one right here is Geneticists Trace Origins of Native Americans to Middle East, Ancient Greece. The idea that Native Americans are descended from ancient Jews, Egyptians, or Greeks have been controversial for over hundreds of years. James Adair, an 18th century settler who traded with Native Americans over 40 years, that their language and customs and social structures were similar to those of the Israelites. Okay. He wrote in this book, History of the American Indians, it is a very difficult thing to divest ourselves, not to say other persons, of prejudices and favored opinions, and I expect to be censored by some for opposing commonly received sentiment or for meddling with the dispute agitated among the learned ever since the first discovery of America. Pretty much what it's saying is that some people don't want to admit this because they don't want to talk about it. But that's not what it is. So one moment, I'm going to read something to you that's going to it goes against everything they're saying. So listen. It is commonly held that the Native Americans descended from Mongolians. Acknowledged that some ancient European ancestry is possible. A 24,000-year-old corpse supposedly was analyzed in Siberia. Showed no resemblance to Asian populations, only to European. And it showed a clear connection to Native Americans, but the mainstream scientific community is far from embracing the theory that Native Americans descended from the Middle Eastern or Greek people, as Yates and some others have proposed. One moment. Now, when they say that they have descended from these people, I don't even think that they descended from these people. I think that they come from the region and the area, and that needs to be denoted. That needs to be properly said. Because it doesn't denote where exactly and why exactly they feel like these people were Israelites. He just said that, and for that guy to say that, to have never been around the Israelites in the 18th century, is just a little bit far-fetched, if you ask me. Cultural linguistics similarities. Though much of the Cherokee culture has been lost, noted Yates in his book, Cherokee Clans, what can still be discovered about the legends hints at ancestors that came across the sea whose language is similar to ancient Greek. Some linguistic parallels between the Native American language, Egyptian, and Hebrew. Now let me go ahead and say something once again about this stuff right here. Is that when they make these comparisons, right, and they make these linguistic sounds or whatever, right, how many sounds can people make on a planet, yo? You know? I mean, and then you're talking about people who, if the planet is what they're saying it is, if the Japhetites inherited these so-called things that came from the middle of the earth, why wouldn't they know a language that was similar to all the other peoples on the planet? Just another question, but we'll carry on. Atia may refer to Attica, which they don't know, a historical religion encompassing the Greek capital, Athens. Atia was said to be a place full of high alabaster temples, one of which was very spacious and was built on a meeting place for gods and men. At this place, one found sporting, competitions, feasts to the gods, meeting of great chiefs, and the origins of wars that caused people to spread over the Pacific. Are y'all hearing this? Like, they're just making stuff up. Like, they're just making stuff up. Because the only thing that even supports that kind of, sort of, would be like way back when the Huns invaded stuff, you know. But even then, they claim that there was an ice age during these times. It's just there's too many things that go against everything that you're hearing, and I've covered in other videos. One moment. He gave an example to a similar custom, correspondent of the Mosaic law of women's purification after travel. The women absent themselves from men and all public company for a considerable time. What does it have to do with the Israelites? What? they said that a similar tribal organization that the manner of delimiting time was similar as their custom was of a most holy place, the designation of prophets and high priests. Listen to this. From the most exact observations I can make in a long time I traded among American Indian Americans, I was forced I was forced to believe them lineally descended from Israelites, either while they were maritime power or soon after the general captivity. The latter, however, is the most probable. Bullshit. That's all I got to say about that, y'all. One moment. It's just the Israelites were about 40 years in the wilderness and would not have renewed the painful act of circumcision, only that Joshua enforced it. And by the necessary fatigues and difficulties which was already hinted, the primitive Americans must have been exposed at their first arrival in the vast extent of wilderness. It is likely they forbore circumcision upon the divine principle extended to their supposed predecessors in the wilderness, of not accepting sacrifice at the expense of mercy. Get the fuck out of here. That's a complete lie. Doesn't make any sense, y'all. This might soothe them afterwards to a holy to reject to it as a needless duty, especially if as the Eastern heathens accompany them in their travels in a quest of freedom. That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense, y'all. They just tried to tie in the Native Americans with the Israelites on some nonsense. Anyway, take it for what it's worth. These links will be in the freaking. It'll be in the video. Uh, the most part that doesn't make any sense is the fact that the Native Americans don't grow facial hair. Genetically, they don't grow it, so it's hard to believe that they're Israelites. Even when you look at pictures of the so-called Hyksos or Asiatic people, they still are lightly bearded. I mean, they have full beards, but they're just lightly bearded compared to the other guys who have like full spreads going all the way across. So, with that said, I just have to look at it a little more wholeheartedly and to say to myself that these people are just trying to include a group of people who are not actually included in this group. It doesn't make any sense, that comparison to the wilderness. Nothing. The fact that they get treated better than regular black people, it just, none of it makes any sense at all whatsoever. They're not my people. They're not your people. They are from the middle of this planet. And we are going to slowly bust it all open.